The Galactic Concorde's reaction to the signal was swift, almost dismissive. It was just a faint ping, a weak transmission coming from the outer reaches of the solar system, a relic of Earth's long-forgotten space program. Nothing more than a glitch, they thought, from an insignificant species. The Concorde had already mapped out the galaxy, catalogued all known life forms, and Earth had been written off as irrelevant, too primitive, too isolated. Humans had nothing of value. The thought that anything from Earth might be important was laughable. But as the signal's rhythm began to fall into place, something felt off. In the command center of the Concorde's observation fleet, Captain Elora Terran studied the signal intently. She was an experienced officer, one who had spent years tracking down anomalies across the galaxy. And this wasn't just an ordinary mistake. The signal had structure, it was purposeful. Someone had deliberately sent it. Could it be another species trying to contact us? Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Dalen, asked, his voice filled with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Elora didn't answer immediately. The signal's code was simple, nothing like the sophisticated communication methods of the Concorde or the more advanced civilizations they dealt with. Yet there was a certain precision to it that hinted at a deeper understanding, almost like a message that had been left behind by someone who knew exactly how to get their attention. Her eyes narrowed. "We're not dealing with an unknown species," she muttered. "This is Earth. Their coordinates match the last known transmission from a human probe." Dalen glanced at her in confusion. "You think they're still around after all these years?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Elora directed the fleet sensors to focus on the transmission source, a distant, dying relay station just beyond the edge of the solar system. It was a forgotten outpost, something built during Earth's early attempts to explore the stars. Surely the humans had abandoned it long ago. Yet here it was, broadcasting. As they pieced together the data, the full weight of what they were seeing began to dawn on them. The signal wasn't random. It was encoded with mathematical sequences and patterns that clearly weren't accidental. The simplicity of the code made it almost childlike in its design. But as Captain Elora dug deeper, she realized this simplicity was a calculated move. It was a message designed for anyone to decode, no matter how technologically advanced they were. And then it hit her. The signal wasn't just a call for help. It was a warning. Someone, or something, had left a message for the future, a message that would shape humanity's next step. A quiet sense of unease settled over Elora as she transmitted the data back to Concorde Command. There was no way the humans had this kind of knowledge on their own. And if they had been able to leave behind such a message, that meant one thing: they were more dangerous than the Concorde had ever imagined. The Concorde didn't waste time. After receiving Captain Elora Terran's transmission, they moved swiftly. A scout ship, the Aurora, was dispatched to Earth's solar system under the guise of a standard observation mission. The Galactic Concorde had nothing to fear from the blip of humanity, they assured themselves. Their best minds believed the human race was still centuries behind in terms of technological advancement. But something about that signal, something about the fact that Earth still existed at all, gnawed at the edges of their certainty. Captain Terran watched from the command center of the Aurora as the ship approached Earth's orbit. From this distance, the planet looked like a beautiful blue marble, suspended in the void of space. It was hard to believe that something so small, so insignificant, could have survived the ages, especially when so many of the galaxy's civilizations had fallen to entropy or self-destruction. Yet humanity had endured, and the more the Concorde studied, the more peculiar the situation became. The Aurora's sensors were designed to detect the subtle emissions of a developing civilization, faint energy signatures, the rise of industry, or the use of advanced materials. The Concorde systems had mapped Earth long ago, marking it as a non-threat. But now, as they began scanning, they were stunned. There was a strange uptick in electromagnetic signals coming from Earth's surface, emanating from all corners of the planet. The Concorde expected primitive power grids, a few nuclear reactors, some communications beacons, But what they found was a network of human technology they hadn't anticipated. The signal wasn't just an artifact of the past, it was tied to a present that no one had expected. "What in the stars are they doing?" Elora whispered under her breath, her fingers flying across the console. Data flooded in. Human experimentation with deep space communication, prototypes for advanced AI algorithms and military-grade energy weapons still in their infancy, but moving quickly. Earth wasn't just catching up, it was evolving rapidly. And what frightened Elora most was a series of encrypted transmissions being sent from deep within their planet's surface, as though they were already in contact with someone, out there. Lieutenant Dalen, standing next to her, shifted uncomfortably. "We need to inform the conquered leadership. This isn't just a simple species. They've got something far beyond our calculations." Elora nodded, eyes still glued to the screen. "Agreed. But we need to know what it is first. I want a team on the ground." Meanwhile, on Earth, the truth was just beginning to reveal itself, though. Humans were still blissfully unaware. As far as Earth scientists knew, they were merely advancing technology at an extraordinary pace, solving problems, developing new solutions, and crossing thresholds they had once thought were unreachable. But in the quiet laboratories and forgotten vaults of their history, there was something that had remained hidden from them as well. Beneath the surface of the Earth, in a long-forgotten facility, an old human scientist, Dr. Evelyn Park, unearthed an artifact during an excavation. It was small, weathered, and unlike anything she'd seen before. It had been buried for centuries, covered in ancient dust, with no clear markings. Yet as she held it, she felt an inexplicable connection to it. She wasn't sure why, but she knew. This was what they'd been waiting for. What they'd been searching for all along. She had no idea that the artifact was the key to something far greater than her own understanding. But when it activated, it sent a signal of its own, answering back to the stars. The Concord's leadership knew they had to act quickly. With the increasing signs of human advancement, there was a sense of urgency in the air. Their initial dismissal of Earth was becoming a glaring mistake, and the discovery of humanity's unexpected technological leap only amplified their concerns. They needed to test humanity, to confirm whether Earth's development was truly an anomaly or something far more dangerous. And so, the Concord devised a plan. A covert mission, under the guise of a standard reconnaissance operation, was ordered. A Concord scout ship, the Zenith, would accidentally crash on Mars, one of Earth's nearest planetary neighbors. It would be a calculated move. Humanity would respond, no doubt. And when they did, the Concord would be watching closely, analyzing their every move. The humans naturally would assume it was an accident. They might even come to the rescue, but the Concord was betting on their assumption that humans would be out of their depth, completely unaware of the technology and tactical knowledge they were about to face. The Zenith, after all, was equipped with systems far beyond what humanity could handle. But what the Concord didn't anticipate was how quickly humans would adapt. As soon as Earth scientists and engineers got word of the crash, they sprang into action. The Zenith was located in a remote region of Mars, a perfect location to test Earth's response time. A team of Earth's best engineers, led by Dr. Emma Larkin, arrived within hours of the crash. What the Concord didn't know was that Dr. Larkin was more than just an expert in alien technology. She had been investigating unusual signals from deep space for years, researching patterns and transmissions that no one else had paid attention to. Earth had been more observant than the Concord had assumed. "I don't care if it's a Concord ship or a meteorite," Dr. Larkin said, staring at the wreckage of the Zenith. "We're going to learn everything we can from this." Her team set to work quickly, carefully extracting the ship's systems with an efficiency that shocked even her. As they analyzed the wreckage, they found that most of the technology wasn't as foreign as they had expected. The Zenith's core systems were remarkably similar to a theory they had been developing for human deep space exploration. The language of the technology wasn't incomprehensible. It was just a few steps ahead of humanity's own. By the time the Concord's observation satellites had captured the progress of the humans, the engineers had already started to reverse engineer the Zenith's propulsion system. They discovered how to unlock a new type of energy field, one that would allow them to travel across the galaxy at speeds the Conquered had only dreamed of. This wasn't just a crash site, it was a breakthrough. The Conquered's fleet had been watching from a safe distance, expecting chaos, desperation. Instead, they watched in disbelief as the humans demonstrated an uncanny ability to understand the wreckage, repair it, and begin working with it as if it were second nature. They're not scrambling, Captain Elora murmured to herself, staring at the data feeds. They're learning. By the time the Conquered finally decided to intervene, humanity had already moved beyond what they considered possible. It wasn't just a recovery mission, it was an entirely new frontier. The invitation to the Galactic Conquered's diplomatic summit arrived on Earth's doorstep like a gauntlet thrown into the face of the Terran Cooperative Defense Initiative. The Conquered had always been dismissive of humanity, relegating Earth to the status of an experimental curiosity, something to observe from a distance, like a microbe under a microscope. But the Zenith incident had shifted the balance. Earth's scientific breakthroughs, accelerated by their unexpected recovery of alien technology, had left the Conquered leaders shaken. The summit was a calculated move, a way to assert their dominance over the upstart species without risking open confrontation. But they underestimated one thing: Lieutenant Sarah Chen. Sarah had been chosen to represent Earth because of her strategic brilliance. Honed from years of military leadership and diplomacy, the Conquered had assumed that they could easily manipulate her, play their games of power, and assert their superiority in front of the galaxy's most powerful races. They were wrong. As Sarah entered the grand hall of the summit, the vastness of the chamber overwhelmed her for only a moment. Surrounding her were representatives of dozens of advanced civilizations, each one more alien than the last. The room hummed with a strange energy, the air thick with calculated glances and whispered exchanges. The Conquered representatives, sitting at the head of the table, exuded an aura of quiet superiority, as if they expected everyone to bow to their ancient wisdom. At first, Sarah played the role of the dutiful representative, standing tall but keeping her voice measured and her eyes downcast. The Conquered leaders wasted no time in asserting their position, weaving an elaborate narrative about how humanity was fortunate to be included in such an esteemed gathering. They offered their guidance and wisdom, but there was a hint of mockery behind their words. "You've done well, Earth," said High Chancellor Valthar of the Conquered with a calculated smile. "But your advancements, though impressive, are still primitive. We have little doubt that in time, you will reach the stars. But you are not yet ready to stand beside us." The room nodded in agreement, the other galactic representatives watching in silence. They expected Sarah to cower to apologize for humanity's irrelevant existence, but instead she straightened her back, lifting her head with a calm, measured confidence. "I'm not here to apologize for humanity's existence," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. "And I'm certainly not here to beg for your approval. I'm here to tell you that we won't be your subjects, we won't be the backdrop for your galactic games." The room fell dead silent. Sarah didn't flinch. "Humanity is just beginning. What you see is just the tip of the iceberg. We're not here to be ruled. We're here to show you that the future isn't something you can control. The future will be shaped by those who refuse to be overlooked." Her words echoed through the vast chamber. Even the Conquered seemed momentarily stunned. Valthar's smile faded into a tight line, his eyes narrowing. He had expected defiance, but not with such clarity and confidence. The others at the table shifted uncomfortably, sensing the change in the air. "We will no longer be your underlings," Sarah continued, her voice unwavering. "We will be your equals, whether you like it or not." For the first time, the Conquered leaders were left, speechless. It was clear to them now, humanity wasn't just a blip in the galactic timeline. They were a force to be reckoned with. The diplomatic summit was a turning point, but the true test for humanity was yet to come. The Concord, bruised by Sarah Chen's bold declaration, had underestimated Earth's resolve. Within weeks of the summit, An attack on a human mining colony on Ceres sent shockwaves through the Terran Cooperative Defense Initiative. The strike was swift and brutal. A clear message from the Concord, meant to show that their dominance over the galaxy would not be questioned by an upstart species. Ceres had been one of humanity's first deep space colonies, a mining hub for vital resources that Earth was beginning to rely on for their ambitious plans of galactic exploration. The attack, though devastating, was not an isolated incident. It was a deliberate show of force. The Conquered believed this would send the message to Earth: know your place, bow to your superiors. But instead of cowering, Earth united, the Terran. Cooperative's response was immediate and resolute. President Gabriel Hayes, known for his calm demeanor in the face of crises, addressed the global population in an impassioned speech. We will not bow to any power. We will rebuild what was lost on Ceres, and we will show the galaxy that humanity's strength lies not in our weapons, but in our unity. Across Earth, the response was overwhelming. Governments, corporations, and ordinary citizens alike rallied together. Emergency coalitions were formed, resources pooled, and humanity's resilience became apparent. But it wasn't just a rallying cry for survival. It was a declaration of something greater. The message was clear. Humanity would never again be the victim of another species' arrogance. Sarah Chen, now a symbol of Earth's strength, was tasked with overseeing the reconstruction effort on Ceres. Her leadership was unwavering, even as conquered warships loomed ominously in the distance. But Sarah understood that this was not just about rebuilding a colony. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity would not be pushed around. The construction of new defense platforms and research stations on Ceres would be just the beginning. The Terran Cooperative Defense Initiative had grown beyond a military response. It was now a movement for survival, for justice, and for equality. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Evelyn Park had begun to unravel the full potential of the alien artifact she had discovered months earlier. The strange object, which had long been dismissed as nothing more than a relic, had begun to reveal its true purpose. Through painstaking research, Dr. Park and her team had activated a hidden function, an advanced energy system that could fuel humanity's exploration efforts for generations. But the true surprise came when the artifact's data streams connected with the Zenith's technology. It was a map, an ancient blueprint for faster-than-light travel, one that could bring humanity to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just catching up to the Concord, they were about to leap ahead. While Sarah continued her efforts on Ceres, Dr. Park's discovery set off a chain reaction that no one, not even the Concord, could have predicted. The artifact's technology was about to give humanity the keys to the stars, and they weren't going to ask for permission. As the dust settled on the tragedy at Ceres, humanity began to rebuild, not just physically, but mentally. The attack by the Conquered had forced Earth to face an uncomfortable truth. They had been too reliant on external forces for too long. Now, their survival and future were squarely in their own hands. But what they didn't yet know was that the true catalyst for change was already in motion beneath the surface. Dr. Evelyn Park and her team had made an extraordinary breakthrough. The alien artifact she had uncovered on Earth's surface wasn't just a relic. It was a key to a technology far beyond anything humanity had imagined. When the artifact had activated, it unleashed a torrent of data, connecting seamlessly with the Zenith systems and revealing a complex blueprint that pointed to a revolutionary new method of faster-than-light, FTL, travel. The design was elegant and simple, almost shockingly so, using a form of energy manipulation that defied conventional physics. The Zenith's drive system, now fully understood, could be adapted for human spacecraft, propelling them across vast distances in the blink of an eye. But the real surprise came when Dr. Park and her colleagues realized the potential implications of the technology. It wasn't just a new method of propulsion, it was a new way of bending space itself, a form of energy that could be weaponized. The news of this discovery was a tightly kept secret. President Gabriel Hayes, Sarah Chen, and the top brass of the Terran Cooperative Defense Initiative had to act quickly. While the Concord was still reeling from the fallout of the Ceres attack, humanity had already begun constructing prototype ships equipped with this new FTL technology. But more than that, they were integrating the weaponized energy systems into their ships, creating a form of combat capability that could rival even the most advanced Concorde warships. The first test flight took place in a secluded facility on the Moon, far from the prying eyes of the Concord. The prototype ship, a sleek, angular vessel named Vanguard, was ready. The ship's hull glowed with an otherworldly energy, the hum of its engines unlike anything humanity had ever heard before. Sarah Chen stood at the control center, her hand steady on the console as the countdown began. 50 seconds to ignition, the technician called out. Sarah had seen many breakthroughs in her time, but this felt different. This was the moment that could change everything. Initiating FTL drive in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the technician said, and with that, a blinding flash of light filled the room as the Vanguard vanished from sight, only to reappear a fraction of a second later at a point 100 kilometers away. The room erupted in cheers. It worked. Humanity had done it. They had successfully harnessed the power of FTL travel. But that wasn't the most startling part. The Vanguard systems had not only jumped through space, they had done so with such force that the very fabric of spacetime had rippled. A shockwave rippled through the atmosphere, causing seismic tremors across the lunar surface. This new technology was not just a method of travel, it was a weapon of unprecedented power. "Report," Sarah said, her voice calm but intense. We just created a weapon capable of destabilizing entire systems," the technician said, his voice trembling. "We can't just travel with it. We can destroy with it." Sarah's heart raced as the implications of their success hit her all at once. Humanity was no longer just a fledgling species on the edge of the galaxy. They had just become a force capable of altering the balance of power in the universe, and they weren't going to be anyone's pawn anymore. The Vanguard's successful test had set a chain of events in motion that no one could have predicted. Humanity, once considered nothing more than a curiosity by the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, had just crossed an irreversible threshold. They were no longer a vulnerable species at the mercy of the Galactic Concord. They were a new power, armed with technology that could reshape the entire galactic order. But the Concord was not a group that could be easily intimidated. In the wake of humanity's sudden rise, High Chancellor Valthor called an emergency council to address the situation. The stakes were higher than ever before, and he knew the time had come to decide how to handle this new, unpredictable force. The decision was clear. Humanity must be neutralized before their advances went any further. "This is no longer about diplomacy," Valthar declared, his voice cold and resolute. "Earth's technology must be contained. They cannot be allowed to threaten our way of life." The Concord leaders agreed. Their pride had been wounded at the summit, and the Ceres attack had only fueled their desire to reassert control. They began to mobilize their fleets, preparing for a strike on Earth's home system. Meanwhile, on Earth, the leadership knew what was coming. The Concord had already shown their hand, and it was clear that they would not allow humanity's rise without a fight. President Gabriel Hayes called an emergency meeting with Sarah Chen and Dr. Evelyn Park. "We've reached the point of no return," Hayes said, pacing in front of the large holographic display. "The Concord won't back down. They see our strength as a threat, and they won't allow us to become an equal power." Sarah Chen, now fully aware of the stakes, clenched her fists. "Then we'll make sure they know we're ready. We've built the technology to fight back, and we've got allies. We can't let them push us into submission." Dr. Park stepped forward, her voice calm but filled with conviction. "We're not just prepared to defend ourselves, we're prepared to take the fight to them. The Vanguard was just the beginning. The next step is to build a fleet capable of challenging the Concord head-on. We've got the resources, and we've got the technology. It's time we showed the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." But Sarah knew the cost of what they were suggesting. A war with the Concord would come at a steep price. The Concord's fleets were vast, and their military prowess was unmatched. Humanity's FTL technology was a game-changer, but it was still untested in a real conflict. The conversation took a darker turn as Sarah considered the strategy. We can't fight them alone, but we don't have to. If we can reach out to the other civilizations that the Concord has subjugated, those who are tired of their rule, we might be able to form an alliance. It was a risky move. Some of the galaxy's most powerful races had been under the Concord's heel for centuries, but it was their only chance. Humanity was the spark that could ignite a revolution. We can't afford to wait, Sarah continued. The Concord is coming, and when they do, we'll be ready to fight for our place in this galaxy. The galaxy trembled with anticipation. The Concord fleet, a vast armada of warships, had entered the Sol system. Their mission was clear: destroy humanity's capacity for resistance before it could grow into a genuine threat. But Earth, united and stronger than ever, stood ready. The time for diplomacy was over. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned flagship Defiance, her eyes scanning the star-filled expanse as the Concord ships drew closer. Around her, Earth's fleet, a newly formed coalition of ships, outfitted with humanity's FTL technology and weapons, prepared for the inevitable battle. The Defiance was a symbol of their defiance, built not just to be a warship, but a testament to humanity's resilience and determination. The Concord is here, Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with fire. But they're about to learn something they never expected. We're not just a blip in the galaxy anymore, we're a force, and we won't be silenced. Dr. Evelyn Park, now coordinating the research efforts, stood beside her. The Vanguard's technology had been integrated into every human ship, and the power of the weaponized FTL drives was now their greatest advantage. But Dr. Park knew that this wasn't just about technology. It was about humanity's will to survive. We've not only proven that we can defend ourselves, Sarah, she said. We've proven that we can outthink them, outlast them, and if necessary, destroy them. Meanwhile, on the front lines, President Gabriel Hayes had taken to the airwaves, broadcasting a message to every corner of the galaxy. To the other, civilizations watching know this: Earth is not a victim. We have faced oppression, we have faced extinction, and yet we stand. The Concord does not own the stars. We do. The response was immediate. The oppressed races, those who had suffered under the Concord's iron rule for centuries, began to rise. It wasn't a coordinated rebellion, yet. But there was a surge of support for Earth, a ripple that began to spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The message was clear. Humanity had sparked a revolution, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battle began with a deafening roar as the Defiance and the rest of Earth's fleet engaged the Concord armada. The Concord's ships were formidable, their advanced weaponry deadly, but they had not anticipated the sheer unpredictability of humanity's tactics. Every move Earth made, every shift in their strategy, kept the Concord guessing. And when the first FTL-powered human ship launched an attack with pinpoint precision, the Concord realized something crucial. Humanity had not only mastered their technology, they had learned how to wield it as a weapon. Hours turned into days as the two forces clashed in space. But one thing became increasingly clear. The Concord could not crush humanity's will. They could not break the unity of Earth's people. And slowly, as the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. The final blow came when the Defiance, armed with a full charge of the new FTL weaponry, cut through the heart of the Concord's flagship. In an instant, the massive ship was torn apart, its systems destabilized by the very technology it had once mocked. Sarah Chen stood at the helm, her heart pounding as the Concord fleet retreated, broken and defeated. They had tried to crush humanity, and failed. "This is our future," Sarah whispered, staring at the wreckage of the Concord fleet. "No one will ever again decide our fate for us." And as the dust settled, and humanity stood victorious, one thing was undeniable. Earth had risen, and with it a new era in the galaxy was born.